So much to get through, but I'm delighted to say that with me live in the studio now is the former chief Brexit negotiator, Lord David Frost. Now, Lord Frost is back, but not in government. The UK's former chief Brexit negotiator is about to become the Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs, the free market think tank, credited with paving the way for Thatcherism. From January, he'll give up the Tory whip and sit as a non-affiliated peer, promising to fight statism and collectivism and make the case for free markets from his new perch at the IEA. Lord David Frost, welcome to Morning Glory.
Great to be here, thank you.
Congratulations on the move. Why have you taken this step?
So I think at the moment the important thing is to win the battle of ideas. There's obviously a fantastic amount of noise going on in politics at the moment and a lot of things going wrong. But behind all that is the failure to run a modern free market economy in the way that it should have been run. And I'm afraid that's been the case for 20 years. Growth has been falling, things have been getting worse. It's now accelerating, I think, under this government. But what we've got to do is help voters understand that the way you get better off is to return to free markets, it's return to a small state, low tax economy, and all that seems to have been forgotten. So it's that battle of ideas that we now need to start fighting again.
But this move is not a vote of confidence in the Conservative Party, is it?
Well, it's a wish to fight the battle from a different place. Obviously, the right in British politics broadly defined is divided at the moment, and that argument is going on, and it's probably reducing the impact of everybody at the moment. And I think, you know, some people want to be part of that, and I think I can best help the things I believe in by going somewhere else for the time being and arguing it in a different way.
And you haven't left the Conservative Party, but clearly you've parted company with this political force, which, as we know, is historically very successful, because of its shift leftwards. Why do you think that's happened?
So I think the party over the last 20 years or so has simply kind of gone with the flow. And it kind of believed the Blair-Brown view that the economic problems of the country had been kind of permanently solved, and the only thing was to redistribute the proceeds of growth. And so year by year, not consistently but generally, we took our eye off the ball in terms of holding tax down, holding spending down, not doing ridiculous regulation. We bought into the whole net zero project, which has proved so damaging. We just went with the flow and didn't resist. And this is where it's taken us. The flow is collectivist, statist, and it needs to stop.
You had enormous success in partnership with Boris Johnson getting Brexit across the line, which on behalf of my viewers and listeners, I'd like to once again congratulate you and thank you for that Brexit deal.
Thank you.
Which I believe will age well in the years ahead, even if this current administration are not taking advantage of it. And I say that as somebody that voted Remain. But if I had a choice now, I would back Brexit, but it's yet to come to fruition in terms of what it has to offer. But notwithstanding the Brexit triumph, Boris Johnson was the man that obviously participated in the net zero project, wild ambitions that went beyond our international obligations, much to the consternation of many Conservatives. Similarly, the open borders, the so-called Boris wave. Are you surprised and disappointed that this happened on the watch of Boris Johnson, a man with whom you collaborated so successfully elsewhere?
Disappointed, certainly. I think the you know, what happened, I think, was we were coming out of the pandemic. You know, there'd obviously been shock to the economy through that. We didn't quite know how many people had arrived or left. There were obviously strains in the supply chains, and I think I mean, I wasn't directly involved, but my interpretation of what happened is that we erred on the side of caution. So to me, the real mistake was not the initial decision to relax, because we just didn't quite know what we were dealing with. It was the failure to correct when it was clear that, you know, 1 million people a year were coming into the country, and Rishi Sunak, first as Chancellor and then as Prime Minister, was saying people aren't worried about this. It's only illegal immigration they're worried about. So it's a failure to correct when it was obviously there was a problem that is the real mistake here.
And that level of legal mass migration is a form of cooking the books, isn't it? Because it boosts the overall GDP figure, not per head, but the overall figure. And of course, it plugs gaps in the public sector, but huge downside consequences.
It's very interesting now. At last, in the last year or so, we're getting a bit of a debate about is immigration always a good? You know, what is the long-term cost to the public finances of migrants? Do they always contribute more than we pay out in public funds? We're now getting a more realistic debate about that, informed by information from across Europe. And you're absolutely right. It is not necessarily a net good in any way. It very much depends on who you take and what numbers you take and where they come from.
Because even a low-skilled worker that's required to work in a care home or some other such setting, yes, we need those people because we haven't got, you know, folk here who are willing to do those jobs, but it's still a net cost to the exchequer to the tune of hundreds of thousands of pounds across a lifetime, even if they work their entire lives.
It absolutely can be, because people bring their families in, they have children, or they bring their children in, we pay pensions.
In work benefits.
Yes, there's a huge financial cost to people who are nevertheless working, and we need to make sure this works for the country. We can't have a model of the economy which it depends simply on importing labour the whole time indefinitely into the future from wherever we can get.
It's a Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
That's right, it exactly is that. And you know, the Thatcher period, the 80s, early 90s, we're actually a country of net emigration through that period. It didn't stop us turning the economy round, boosting growth, getting the country going again. You know, these things are not necessarily connected. It depends how you choose to do it, and we've chosen to do it in a bad way in the last few years.
As a lifelong Conservative, what is your appraisal of the Reform UK project?
So I think that if you look at like polling of the attitudes of Conservative voters and Reform voters, they're basically the same. I think there's a kind of slight false view around that Reform voters are sort of ex-Red Wall, sort of slightly left. I mean, I just don't see that in the polling. I think this is a genuine division on the right for a genuine right-wing project, and you know, most of us see good in both parties, and if we're honest, we see good in one or two things the Labour government has done as well. Planning reform, for example, that Conservatives shied away from, that is something they've taken on. So one's got to look at the actual policies, what are the things that are being done, and not get mesmerised by the party structure, which is clearly in flux.
Do you anticipate the circumstances in which you might lend your support to Reform at the next election?
Well, in this role as the IEA, it's a charity. I'm non-party, as you said. I'm stepping down from the Conservative whip. Let's see how things kind of pan out. And
so you can't rule out, whilst you're in this role, you won't pronounce publicly on party political issues.
That's right.
But you have the vote, and so you can't rule out at 9:13 in the morning that you could conceivably vote Reform UK at the next election as a private citizen if you felt that was the right move.
Well, luckily as a peer I don't get a vote either.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I've never faced with that.
Well, what about
let's see
therefore, I mean,
look.
in a way, you've sidestepped it quite nicely, but I think so many of my viewers and listeners admire you for your achievements regarding Brexit and elsewhere, and they'd love to know whether at some point you might feel that Reform was the best Conservative option for this country.
And we'll have to see how things pan out. I mean, I will be looking, if in my sort of virtual vote when it comes to it, for parties that turn round the direction of statism and collectivism, and that has not yet happened. So let's see.
Briefly, because I've got to let you go at 1:15.
Yeah.
What do you think of Nigel Farage?
I don't know Nigel very well. He seems somebody who's stuck to his principles. It's clear that we wouldn't have had Brexit without Nigel. He wasn't the only person who made it happen, but he was certainly a big part of it. He seems to be a free marketeer. As far as I can see, he's stuck to that, and we need more free marketeers in politics. So keep talking about it, keep pushing it. That's true for everybody.
Right. So no red flags for Reform. Some people suggest it's sort of fag packet politics, and that they're not ready for government and won't be in 3 years' time.
Well, I think up to this point, it has been a bit sort of back of a fag packet. It looks like they're trying to evolve that, which is very good. It's necessary.
There you go. Well, let me now, because we're going to let you go. But my team have drawn up some questions for one-word answers. Rachel Reeves scraps a budget plan, we're hearing from the Times, to increase income tax. Incompetent, yes or no?
Yes.
Keir Starmer clears his chief of staff over toxic briefings. Is Starmer a dead man walking? Will he still be Prime Minister in a year's time?
No.
Wow. More Trump footage edited by the BBC. Should Donald Trump take the BBC to the cleaners?
No, I don't think this is in his interest to do it, though I absolutely understand why he feels as he does.
And the junior doctors strike, the resident doctors, should they be on strike today?
No.
No. What makes you think that Starmer won't be our next Prime Minister, won't be Prime Minister in a year's time?
I mean, it seems to me, I'm no expert in the Labour Party, obviously, but it seems to me like the Labour Party continents are shifting, they're moving around, there's a sort of lack of confidence in his ability to kind of project vision and to lead, and experience of the last couple of decades suggests that this does for you in the end. So I think he's in difficulties, certainly.
Before you jump into a cab, was Brexit worth it?
Absolutely, it was worth it. It's, with the exception of Northern Ireland, very regrettable in part, it's made Britain a full democracy again. We can decide anything, we can do anything, we can debate anything in our parliament, voters can choose the direction they want to travel, and I think that is the most important thing in the way you run a country. Democratic nation state, people making up their own minds. They can't do that in the European Union. We can do it here.
And we have free trade with the European Union, and we're not paying £20 billion a year in membership fees.
That's right. Everybody has forgotten this huge membership bill that we had to pay every year. 20 billion plus. I mean, their budget is going up the whole time. We have zero tariffs, zero quotas with Europe. It's the best free trade agreement ever in the world, the biggest, the broadest, the best, and it allows us to do anything we wish domestically in terms of reform. It's
been badly explained. People don't realise that we've got free trade with the EU, and I just wonder why the right seem to have disowned Brexit as well. Some figures on the right who are a little bit, lukewarm on the whole thing.
I mean, there always was a bit of ambivalence, that's clear, from the last decade or so. I think the debate has moved away, which is a pity, because the reset, Starmer's reset, is going to subject us to EU laws and courts, laws in which we get no say in some areas. There's going to be a bill to pay for that and for EU military procurement. We are stepping back within the tractor beam and getting pulled back in, and it won't be good for the country.
David, what a privilege to meet you. Thank you for joining us in the studio. My audience have enjoyed it as well. The message board has gone into meltdown. Lord Frost is back, but not in government. The UK's former chief Brexit negotiator, about to become the Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs. Very best wishes and good luck with the project, and we'll catch up soon.